Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from, I've got that annoying hair that keeps dropping down in front of my face. The next comment or question comes from, who does it come from? It does help if I pick up my notes, doesn't it? The Death Beats, aka Gary. And this is in response to Workstation, young artists computer savvy. Travelling musicians have choices. A mailbag I did in January 2023. And Gary writes, "Hey mate, in regards to the comments about lines being blurred between hardware and software, that's something that's been on my radar for a while. As you know, I work entirely with VSTs. However, I got into hardware synths when Roland launched the AIRA range. I figured it would be great to have some hardware synths and would enable me to make sounds that I couldn't create with a VST. And I therefore went ahead and bought System 1 and a TB3, and over the years I've collected 7 of the boutique modules." It's quite good going actually, Gary. It's great to have these machines to hand to play around with, but because Roland have made them available as VSTs, I found myself saying, sod it, I'll use the VST. As a result, I never used the hardware platforms for anything other than playing around when I need a break from the computer. What I would love for is Roland to create an affordable workstation mixer that would allow me to create music which is entirely hardware based. So many people mention that. It's about time Roland pricked up the ears and thought about that. For this to happen, they would need to create a product that is affordable, yet also basic automation and effects, etc. If such a project ever comes rolling off the production lines, I can see myself getting a TR8S, as I understand it offers some of the same production flexibility and power as Native Instruments battery and contact, which would be essential for non-DAW music production. Cheers, Gary. Ooh. Now, the thing is, modern music instruments are becoming more and more software driven. Yes, they might be a piece of hardware, but the actual guts are software driven. They are being driven by mini computers. That's how they work. The advantage is of hardware over VSTs is the hardware generates and processes the signal and generates the sound through the hardware's DSP that has been set up to mimic whatever it's been set up. So if it's a boutique, it's been set up to mimic the boutique it's modelled on, for argument's sake. So that actually means there's little or no load on the computer processor, which is one of the biggest problems about creating music in a DAW, is loading up your processor and effectively killing the amount of RAM you have available to do things with, especially if you start manipulating fairly big samples. It all becomes a little bit of a pain. Now, yes, modern computers run very quickly and you can expand modern computers with lots of RAM. And if you're running a Mac-based studio, then you get the advantage of how the operating system works. So all these are positive factors to running a computer VST basis. At the end of the day, this was kind of the whole concept behind Muse Receptor, was the fact that you could run all this stuff on the Muse Receptor. You run the VSTs on the Muse Receptor and effectively offload the load from the computer, so the computer could do what the computer is meant to be doing, which is the sequencing and managing of the tune rather than actually trying to generate the sound as well. So, and you know, this is the thing. While a number of manufacturers have kind of dabbled with this setup, no one really has produced an affordable platform that is not classified as a workstation, if I'm honest. Because once you start looking at some of this stuff, you then turn around and say, well, it's a workstation. You know, you can create, you can edit, you can sample, you can sequence, you can master, you can do all kinds of things on this particular piece of hardware. It is therefore a workstation. You know, and you say, you know, many times I've sort of looked at my Kronos and thought, you know, I could literally take the entire song and master it on the Kronos. You just don't have the same array of options in terms of post production, in VSTs, plugins, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, plugins, whatever you want to call it, that you get with a DAW-based scenario. So that's one of the reasons why most people will, I mean, like me, I rough a track up on the Kronos and then just transfer the whole thing into a DAW and then do whatever I need to do in the DAW. So I sort of kind of understand exactly where you're coming from and wish that people would listen. Next comment or question comes from the Death Beats. On response to MX1 mastering kick, snare and hoping for an MX2. And the Death Beats writes, in regards to the AIRA compact T8 Beat Machine, I have to say this is quite a neat little machine. It's a lot of fun to program and huge sounds. The downside is that it has very few sounds. That said, you can get creative with building in effects in order to make them sound unique. Having said that, I'm undecided as whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And whether Roland should have put more sounds into it as a selection, as it's quite limited at the moment. It's great to have the TB303 in the same box as the Beats. However, some of the controls for the TB3 that are found on the TB303 and the TB3 and the TB03 seem to have been excluded, which makes it quite hard to make those sounds as raw as those on the other devices. On one hand, I would recommend anyone who's looking for a drum module to spend a bit more money and get something better, but on the other hand, for 200 quid, it's worth getting for the fun factor. Now, Gary is the only person who's fed back on this unit. And you know, real world feedback is always great. I have played with a TR8 and I thought it was limited, is the way I would put it. And I actually have played with it since I wrote this response, so I hadn't played with it at the point I wrote this response. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. The unit has appeal as a fun device, but operationally it may not be the thing you need for your production, where you need more control over the sound that you're crafting and how you put that sound down. So, you know, sonic characteristics, I don't think this unit is great at, but I think it's kind of great at what it does, which is produce beats on the fly. So what I see a lot with the sort of some of the stuff that Roland are marketing at the moment is it's kind of got this portability factor. You know, you see the people who are advertising in the YouTube videos and the videos that Roland are pushing out to the you know, the retailers are, you know, the hip guy with the backpack, and he stops on a park bench and starts creating beats via his, you know, little mini speakers or his headphones. That's kind of not how production works, but it is how fun works.